Discovering my hearing after 10 years, her amazing first words left me speechless and transformed. Amelia Johnson sat on the edge of her couch, a vibrating energy coursing through her veins. Today was supposed to mark the dawn of a new chapter, an opportunity to rediscover the sounds of life. The cochlear implant procedure, after a decade of silence, held promises of laughter and conversation. Her heartbeat thrashed against her ribcage, an irregular drum capturing her anticipation and dread. Here she was, surrounded by family in their warmly lit living room, but she felt more isolated than ever. The love around her seemed like a distant echo, a muffled reminder of the life she used to embrace wholeheartedly. Just then, Lily, her younger sister, fidgeted nervously in her chair, lips poised to form the first words Amelia would hear. What would it feel like? Would it be beautiful? Overwhelming? Or would it simply be a reminder of what she lost? She fought against the wave of self-doubt that flooded over her. Memories of whispers and sidelong glances from colleagues playing in her mind, their words wrapped in judgment, taunting her with the idea that she had become irrelevant. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Amelia's breathing quickened as she shifted in her seat. Those haunting shadows from her professional life tightened their grip on her resolve. Whispers of inadequacy lingered in her mind. Would she, after all this time, actually belong in the world of chatter and banter? Could she step back into the classroom, reversing a decade of distance and silence? Would her presence be celebrated, or would she still remain an afterthought, dulled by her prolonged absence from the world they took for granted? She felt the weight of their perceptions press down on her chest. Finally, Lily's voice broke through the heaviness. I love you, she whispered, the words laden with sentimentality. Amelia crumbled inside, feelings of elation and desperation mingling violently. The warmth wrapped around her heart, yet echoed her own insecurities. As those sweet syllables filled the air, they transformed into a physical sensation, generating both warmth and an intense sense of longing for an authentic connection she had felt slipping away. But the revelation of sound would not come without a price. What if the cacophony of reality overwhelmed her? Would she find solace in the noise, or would it drown her newfound self in doubt? As familial laughter spilled around her, each voice a symphony of warmth, Amelia braced herself. The fear bubbled up within her, a murky brew of anger, hurt, and uncertainty. The tender moment, so charged with potential, shifted with a surge of panic. Could she reclaim her place now that the world spoke a dialect she was a stranger to? As she ventured into the journey of rediscovery, the future lay before her, blank yet dangerously unknown. Doubts perpetuated in her mind, an unending cycle of judgment and resolve. The path to her future remained steeped in shadows, leaving her balancing on the edge of uncertainty. A decisive move lingered before her, embracing what was, or redefining who she might become in a world reconstructed with sound. Amelia felt the warmth of her family's anticipation pressing against her, tangible yet suffocating. As she glanced at Lily, her sister's eyes sparkled with a mix of hope and fear, mirroring Amelia's inner turmoil. The first words she would hear from Lily were more than just sounds, they represented a bridge to a world she had forsaken. Yet, as that bridge loomed closer, anxiety gnawed at her. Would every sound resonate with meaning, or would they be foreign echoes, distorting her sense of identity? As seconds ticked by, Amelia's heart raced in tandem with her thoughts. The reality of the moment enveloped her. Her entire life had been boxed into silence for so long. She had adapted to that silence, crafted a life of gestures, smiles, and unspoken connections. What if the music of voices clawed away at that alternative reality? Her mind raced with possibilities. Each possibility felt less like hope and more like a looming storm on her horizon. Then, with a deep breath that felt too big for her chest, Amelia nodded slightly, urging Lily to speak. I really do love you, Amelia, Lily started, and the words trickled into Amelia's ears. They were sweeter than sugar, yet heavy with weight. A bell-like clarity chimed in her consciousness, resonating with the unbreakable bond shared through years of unspoken communication, and then, there was the rush of sound, bright and overwhelming. Each syllable felt like a jolt of electricity, both thrilling and terrifying. She felt alive, yet deeply unsettled, caught between the thrill of rediscovery and the dread of exposure. Would she be able to maintain her place among those who had always shared their voices so effortlessly? Or had she strayed too far, still adrift in uncertainty, left behind by time and circumstance? In that moment of vulnerability, Amelia felt the world shifting beneath her. The embrace of sound was intoxicating. It painted her existence in vibrant colors she had long forgotten. This was her profound awakening, yet it also bore the unbearable weight of truth. She was not merely re-entering a dialogue, she was forced to confront the silent prison she deconstructed and the layers of herself she had wrapped tightly in silence. With that realization came an urgent need to act. Each vocalization was a promise she needed to fulfill, a challenge demanding her engagement. No longer could she linger on the periphery. The thought ignited a flicker of determination within her. If she was willing to embrace this new reality, this gift of sound, she had to also confront the fears that had held her captive for so long. What to do next? Amelia considered her options. She could cultivate her voice alongside her peers, or she could retreat into the safety of the silence she had known. The classroom hovered at the edge of her consciousness, a sanctuary where knowledge thrived but also a reminder of her absence. How could she define her new identity, one shaped not by her hearing loss but by her resilience? Seizing her thoughts, she made a decision. The only way forward was through participation, through actively reclaiming her role. She envisioned steps into the classroom, each one weighted with anticipation but also filled with purpose. Would she fall? Yes. Would she stumble? Almost certainly. But failure, she realized, could be part of the process, a vital iteration in her journey. A voice inside her whispered against the doubt, urging her to rise and face whatever awaited her. She could redefine the language of her life to include sound. But would she muster the courage to engage with her colleagues, or would the fear grip her anew, freezing her in the threshold of her ambitions? Drawing deep into her reserves, she aimed for clarity. It's just the beginning, she reminded herself, reaffirming the burgeoning sense that change was a choice she was ready to embrace. For the first time, the echo of her old existence and the dawning light of a new one felt almost harmonious. Amelia's heartbeat steadied as she planned her next move. With her focus sharpened and resolve ignited, she was ready to confront the inevitable reckoning with her professional identity. The time had come to face her colleagues, but would they welcome her back, or would she find a battleground where her vulnerabilities could be laid bare? The classroom door loomed before Amelia, a threshold separating her from a world she once knew yet felt alien to her now. She hesitated, her breath hitching as the cacophony of muffled voices and the rustling of papers seeped through the crack. Each sound reignited the anxiety she had fought against, but she gripped the doorknob as if it were the lifeline she so desperately needed. With a decisive inhale, she twisted it and entered. As she stepped inside, silence swelled and then burst, the voices of her peers crashing in a wave around her. She was surprised by the volume, the energy in the room. It enveloped her like a thick fog, disorienting yet invigorating. All eyes turned toward her, a blend of curiosity and recognition sweeping across their faces. She felt exposed, yet there was an undeniable pull to embrace this new reality. Amelia, a voice called from the front, a voice that had long existed in her memory like a half-remembered song. It was her former teacher, Miss Harrington, the one who always encouraged her voice, who taught her that knowledge had no boundaries. Welcome back. We're glad you could join us. Amelia managed a nod, her heart racing in response to the warmth in Miss Harrington's tone. The students resumed their conversations, but the moment felt suspended, thick with unspoken questions about her return and her newfound ability to hear. She felt the weight of their expectations. Would they see the same intelligent young woman they had known? Or would they perceive only her silences, the gaps she had left? She sensed a familiar figure approach her. It was Marcus, her old friend, and the closest thing she had to a sibling within those four walls. His smile broke through the tension, infusing her with a welcome sense of familiarity. "Hey, A.M. can you believe how crazy it is to have you back? He said, words fluttering into her ears like delicate butterflies. I am glad to be here, she stammered, testing the edges of her vocal cords. The sound emerged, shaky but distinctly hers. She couldn't help but feel a warmth blossom in her chest. The first step into reclaiming her identity was now tangible. Ready to dive into today's lesson? We'll be discussing the theme of resilience in literature. Perfect timing for you, right? Marcus grinned, his eyes sparkling with playful mischief. As the discussion began, Amelia positioned herself at the edge of the group, allowing the students' voices to wash over her. Each sentence was a brushstroke on the canvas of her understanding. Some words flowed fluidly through her mind, while others collided with her perceptions, sending her spiraling into contemplation. She realized she wasn't merely observing, she was waiting for a moment to interject, to express her thoughts aloud. The lesson unfolded, a theater of voices intertwining, battling for attention, bubbling with excitement. Yet, in the midst of this auditory chaos, Amelia found clarity. With the growing encouragement prompting her internally, she no longer felt like a ghost. She tapped into the well of resilience embedded in her being and saw her moment shimmering on the horizon. When the group paused, as if the universe had waited just for her, Amelia raised her hand, her heart pounding. I think resilience is about facing our fears even when we feel vulnerable. The words tumbled from her lips, imperfect but bold, reverberating in her own ears like the sweetest symphony. The room fell silent, a stillness creeping in that felt monumental. She caught the eyes of her classmates, wide with surprise yet warm with understanding. They didn't recoil, instead, they seemed to light up in recognition of her presence, her voice. Applause erupted softly as they processed her contribution, validating her return. With each clap, she felt the ordinary words take on extraordinary significance. She was not lost but emerging reborn into the conversation that once felt insurmountable. But as she basked in the warmth of acceptance, a new revelation clawed at her. The clearer she spoke, the more she exposed the silent struggles beneath the surface. The same students who now welcomed her had seen her in silence for so long. Surely they would not forgive her moments of vulnerability yet to come. Could she maintain this facade of strength while grappling with the turmoil that lay below, steeling herself for the roller coaster of emotions ahead? Amelia understood. Her journey was just beginning. She could not ignore the whispers of doubt that threatened to seep in, they would only heighten her resolve. She vowed to foster her voice amidst the cacophony of past and present. As the lesson progressed, the familiar laughter and camaraderie filled the air, but Amelia was no longer merely a participant, she was a creator of her narrative. She could decide how she would shape herself in this renewed landscape, but just as she thought she had grasped her footing, a shadow fell over her optimism, a quick reminder of her vulnerabilities. The looming challenge she had avoided flickered in the recesses of her mind, urging her forward. Would she brave a presentation next week, one she had always feared, or would she allow doubt to echo its familiar refrain? As a new question emerged, Amelia's resolve hardened. She was ready to redefine the type of courage she would need on this uncharted path. Delving deeper into her spirit, she prepared for the debate of a lifetime. With their eyes watching, the stage was set. But would she seize her moment or retreat into herself once more? Amelia's heart thudded in her chest as the classroom chatter faded into the background. The warmth of her classmates' acceptance had felt like a fleeting embrace, and now the dread of the upcoming presentation loomed over her like an insurmountable mountain. It was strange to think that only days ago, silence had been her comfort. Now, sound felt like a new power and a daunting burden. As the day progressed, she found herself drifting through the meticulously familiar curriculum, each assignment blurring into the next. Thoughts of the presentation gnawed at her. She envisioned standing before them, every eye trained on her, the weight of all their expectations thrust upon her like a heavy cloak. Do you want to work on your presentation together? Marcus's voice cut through her spiraling thoughts as he leaned towards her during lunch. His sincere gaze anchored her momentarily, grounding her amid the mounting tension. Yes, I think I need to, she replied, the words tasting foreign yet genuine. It felt empowering to articulate her uncertainty. This was not the time for deflection. Marcus had always known her struggles. With each effort to connect, she was crafting not just her speech but also her understanding of herself in this new auditory landscape. The classroom that afternoon was dim and cluttered, the shadows gathering as the sun dipped lower. They settled into a corner, markers racing across a whiteboard, a universe of ideas splattering into reality. Marcus's enthusiasm lit a spark in her. He reminded her of the importance of authenticity as they discussed her experiences and fears, molding the outline of her presentation into something tangible. "Just speak from your heart," he encouraged, his confidence woven into each word. "Your journey matters, Amelia, and they will see that." Noticing her biting her lip, Marcus added with a grin, "And if they don't? Who cares? You'll still be you." It was liberating, that simple truth. As they worked, she began to visualize the message she wanted to convey, not just the facts about her newfound hearing, but the depth of her journey, the isolation, the struggles, the resilience. Each word she scribbled down felt like peeling away layers of an old skin, revealing the core of who she had always been beneath the silence. Later that evening, alone in her room, Amelia rehearsed in front of the mirror, trying to convince herself of her own bravery. Her reflection stared back, eyes wide with both fear and determination. She could feel the tightness in her throat, the trembling of her hands. But she also felt the adrenaline. This would require every ounce of courage she had. Moments spun out into infinity as her inner critic whispered doubts. What if her voice faltered? What if her vulnerability left her exposed again? She paused, seeking clarity. Could vulnerability be woven into the fabric of strength? Amelia took a deep breath, challenging herself. No more dancing around her fears, she would own them. With each practice, she confronted the very ghosts that had haunted her silence for years, the feeling of inadequacy, the belief that her voice was never worth hearing. The next day, as the classroom buzzed with energy, a metamorphosis was taking shape within her. She felt fueled by a purpose larger than herself. The apprehension of judgment transformed into anticipation, each heartbeat syncing with the rhythm of her resolve. As her name was called, the weight of the moment affirmed her presence in the room. Each step toward the front of the classroom felt like a reclaiming of the lost time and a confrontation with the snare of insecurity. Just as she gathered her thoughts to begin, the magnitude of the moment crystallized. She could either unleash her story, raw and unfettered, or shrink back into the shadows of self-doubt. Amelia stood on the precipice of that decision, her heart racing. Would she boldly uncover the voice she had fought to regain, or would she falter under the weight of expectations? With a deep, steadying breath, she adjusted the microphone, and the silence transformed into an electrified charge. The world was waiting to hear from her, and in that fervent heartbeat, she decided that this moment, her moment, would define more than just her past. It would unveil the promise of her future. As she opened her mouth, the room's energy shifted, all anticipation converging on her singular utterance. The urge to claim her truth surged through her, and Amelia prepared to unleash the reservoir of experience, the account of her transformation. Would this be the moment when fear morphed into strength, or would old insecurities threaten to silence her once again? The microphone felt cool and slightly foreign in her grasp, but it offered an anchor as she looked out at the sea of faces. With a shaky exhale, Amelia felt a rush of determination pulse through her. She could see Marcus encouragingly nodding, while others leaned forward, eyes bright with curiosity. In that instant, a flicker of clarity broke the surface of her thoughts. Vulnerability wasn't a weakness, it was a bridge. "Good morning," she began, her voice a soft tremor weaving through the anticipative silence. "I'm Amelia, and I want to share with you a part of my journey, a journey that transformed significantly when I reclaimed my hearing after 10 years. As she spoke, she felt the tendrils of anxiety unfurling, allowing her to continue. Each word propelled her deeper into her narrative, a narrative she had previously kept hidden. She divulged the darkness of isolation, the days spent cocooned in silence, the struggles of navigating a world meant for noise. The audience remained rapt, and as she spoke, she realized that what she had once deemed as deficits were, in reality, the hues of rich experiences. "I thought I was alone," she continued, her voice strengthening. "It took losing the ability to hear to realize how much I wanted to be part of something more." Those words hung in the air, charged with resonance. Hers was not merely a story of regaining sound, it was a testament to resilience, the act of choosing to step forward, even in fear. What surprised her most was not the trembling of her voice but the warmth within. The weight of judgment lifted in layers, as if each revelation unshackled her from emotional burdens. When she reached into the essence of her fears, she realized they were the very things that had shaped her catalysts for her emerging voice. As she approached the pivotal moment in her presentation, sharing the initial sounds that had cascaded into her life once she was fitted with hearing aids, she felt a swell of pride. "The first time I heard music, it felt like my heart opened up. It was like colors bursting into my world." She painted vivid descriptions, pulling the audience into her emotional recollection as she spoke about hearing her mother's laughter after years of silence. Suddenly, a question woven from threads of honesty emerged in her mind. What if her voice could empower others to awaken from their own silences? Turning to the class, she spoke. "Who else here has a story? Who has faced their own challenges? I encourage you to share yours." The room buzzed with fumbling hands and hesitant glances as several classmates caught Amelia's call. While nervousness still bubbled in her gut, a glimmer of hope shimmered through her worries. The possibility of connection and shared experience opened within her as each moment of vulnerability forged deeper bonds. As the presentation concluded, Amelia stepped back, the applause crashing over her like waves. She had stepped into her power and emerged unscathed. She had begun not just to reclaim her voice, but to inspire others to recognize the importance of their stories too. The flood of relief mixed with exhilaration coursed through her veins like fire. As she returned to her seat, Marcus's proud smile radiated across the room. "That was amazing, Am. Everyone's buzzing about it." Yet, somewhere within her, a more profound change took root. She was no longer just Amelia, the girl who had been silent. She was now a storyteller, a firm voice grounded in authenticity. But as the class began to transition into the next lesson, a hesitant thought crept in. What if her newfound confidence waned? Was she ready to keep this momentum going in the face of the inevitable challenges ahead? With that question echoing in her mind, Amelia contemplated her next steps, realizing that the journey was only just beginning. The next hurdle loomed ahead, unlocking her potential beyond this moment. What would she discover from her lingering fears, and how far was she willing to go in uncovering her truth? As the final applause faded, Amelia sank into her chair, grappling with a rush of contrasting emotions. She had shared her story, and the relief was palpable, but a deeper question clawed at her insides. Who was she meant to become now that she had found her voice? The instructor guided the class into a discussion about influential figures in public speaking. Amelia listened intently, but her thoughts spiraled inward. She was a storyteller now, yet how could she sustain this newfound identity? The confidence she felt during her presentation lingered, but the nagging fear of fading back into obscurity haunted her. That evening, while nestled in her familiar reading nook, Amelia flipped through the pages of a book on public speaking. Each passage resonated, igniting that old flame of ambition. Suddenly, she was struck with a realization. She wanted more than to just share her story. She wanted to help others proclaim their narratives too. The idea filled her with a sense of purpose. The more she thought about it, the more she felt the contours of a dream coalesce. With a notebook in one hand and a pen in the other, Amelia began to outline what this journey could look like. The words flowed faster than she could keep up, swirling with ideas. Workshops, mentorship, community, but what made her uniquely qualified to lead and inspire? During her moments of introspection, she finally addressed her doubts. Vulnerability could be a connector, and she had transformed her own plateaus into stepping stones. As she put the cap back on her pen, Amelia's heart raced with anticipation. She decided to put her plan into action by organizing a small gathering at her local library. The goal? A safe space for anyone willing to share their stories of overcoming challenges. It would be daunting, but she would face it head-on. Her journey thus far had equipped her with knowledge. The art of storytelling was only one part of empowerment. The other was creating an environment where voices not often heard could resonate. With newfound determination, she crafted an invitation to share. She scrawled personal touches, putting forth a call to those she knew could benefit from such an experience. The library's community bulletin board would serve as the stage for her initiative. Yet, as the excitement bubbled within, an unsettling thought nested. What if nobody showed up? That night, Amelia spent hours tossing and turning, riddled with doubts. What if her intentions were misguided? But with each self-questioning moment, every flash of fear, a deeper resolve crystallized. This was her path. Sharing her empowerment was as vital as breathing. In the days leading up to the gathering, she felt the weight of her decision. Students approached her, echoing their own fears about speaking out. In those exchanges, Amelia practiced her own method of dialogue, pulling vibrant tales from those raw conversations. The energy bolstered her strength, but underneath, a troubling question simmered: would she be able to lead effectively when faced with real hardships? The day of the gathering arrived. Time stretched, each minute seeming a prelude to something monumental. As she approached the library, the atmosphere felt electric, yet apprehension nibbled at her confidence. This wasn't merely about sharing, it was about being the anchor for others. Taking a deep breath, Amelia reminded herself of the transformation she had already undergone, one step at a time. She had arrived here, standing at the precipice of potential. Gathering her thoughts, she entered the library, heart pounding as she prepared to face whatever lay ahead. But as she looked around at the empty seats, a chill ran down her spine. Would those seats remain empty, or was this the moment that changed everything? Amelia's heart raced as she stood before the vacant seats, their emptiness amplifying the weight of her mission. That familiar wave of doubt crashed over her. The countless conversations she held in the lead-up echoed in her mind, each one brimming with unfulfilled hopes and shared vulnerabilities. Had she misjudged the need for a space like this, and this was the more terrifying thought, were people too afraid to confront their fears? Determined not to let anxiety envelop her, she shifted her focus to her purpose. She recalled the warmth of those dialogues, the glimmers of understanding shared among voices yearning for liberation. A small flicker of resolve ignited. If no one else would show up, then perhaps this gathering was not just for others but also for her own growth. Amelia walked to the front of the room, the barren chairs her only audience. A soft, unsure smile crept onto her face. What had started out as a means for sharing had morphed into an intimate act of bravery, a test of her own leader's heart. Stepping away from the podium, she took a breath and committed to the moment, imagining that the seats before her were filled with eager listeners. "Welcome to our gathering," she began, her voice steadying with each word. "I want to share a little about why we're here today." She spoke candidly about her journey, the fears that had shackled her, and the exhilarating thrill of finding her voice. Each sentence pulsated with sincerity, a thread weaving through the fabric of her story, binding her to stories not yet told. As if summoned by her conviction, the first few attendees trickled in, curiosity etched on their faces. One by one, each person settled down, and before long, the chairs were not empty anymore. The realization that she was not alone resonated deeper than she could have anticipated. With every shared glance, every nod of understanding, the connection blossomed. Amelia soon found her rhythm, a natural flow of dialogue that transcended the initial trepidation. "Let us create a space where our vulnerabilities can shine, where stories are met with empathy rather than judgment," she said, encouraging participation. And as shyness melted away, a hand raised timidly from the back of the room. The young woman who stood to speak was teetering on the edge of fear, wobbling between retreat and revelation. I've never done this before," she faltered, but Amelia interrupted gently, "Neither have I, but let us take this step together." This was Amelia's pivotal moment. The act of embracing the participant's fear not only empowered her but crystallized Amelia's role in this dynamic. She wasn't just a storyteller, she was a facilitator of courage. As conversations ensued, laughter mixed with tears, and the library transformed from a lonely hall into a sanctuary. Every story released into the air resonated, echoing against insecurities and weaving strength from vulnerability. Amelia felt herself blossoming in the shared experience, grounding herself in the knowledge that this was precisely where she was meant to be. Yet, as the gathering continued to unfold in vibrant storytelling, Amelia couldn't shake the urgent whispers of concern. Would she always navigate the storm of self-doubt that loomed over her aspirations? The moment of connection was indeed powerful, but could it sustain itself beyond this space? Would she feel the same surge of purpose the next time she stood to lead? By the end, applause rang out like a melody, fueling Amelia's spirit. But even as she smiled, deep down she sensed the lingering questions, the unease of her unresolved path. She realized there would be many more gatherings, more stories, more voices yearning to be here, and with them, her fear would amplify. Outside, the evening light dimmed softly, bathing the library in a serene glow. As she locked up, Amelia faced the door, drawing her breath in anticipation of what lay ahead. She would bravely take each opportunity that presented itself to lead and learn. But she had to confront the deeper fear. What about her own story was left to discover? She couldn't ignore it. The time had come to face herself. What truths would emerge from the depths of her own untold experiences? The journey was just beginning. Amelia awoke to a morning drenched in light, a stark contrast to the fog that had settled in her mind the night before. The warmth did little, however, to quell the restlessness rippling through her. Today was different. The echoes of laughter and vulnerability from last night's gathering pulsated within her, demanding recognition. Yet, they were accompanied by an undeniable anguish, the weight of her own untold stories pressing against her chest. She found herself drawn back to the empty seats, an image that lingered, imbued with the promise of connection. But paired with that promise was an unsettling question: what parts of herself had she concealed from even her closest friends? The thought gnawed at her as she prepared for the second gathering. Today, she would not only lead others to explore their fears, she might finally confront her own. As she walked toward the library, the chirping birds and warm breeze seemed to echo her internal call to bravery. She resolved to take a different approach today, to pivot the focus inward and unveil layers of her own experience that had long remained hidden. Arriving at the library, a new resolve infused her step. She could no longer be merely a facilitator. She needed to become a truth-teller, to explore the roots of her own insecurities. The room was quieter today, perhaps a mixture of nerves and the reality of intimacy they had begun to embrace. The chairs stood ready, though some remained unoccupied. "Good evening, everyone," Amelia began, her voice steady. "Tonight, I want to go a bit deeper. We've shared many wonderful stories, and I feel it's time for me to join in." As the words flowed from her, she could see the surprise in their faces. "I've always been afraid of sharing my own experiences, afraid they wouldn't matter as much as yours. But vulnerability is like a two-way street, and tonight, I'm taking a first step down it." The supportive murmurs in the room only solidified her conviction. With each word, she peeled back layers of her past, confronting moments of failure, the voice of doubt that screamed loudest at her, and the times when self-acceptance felt like an unachievable goal. Memories unfolded like petals of an unwilling flower, aching yet beautiful. She shared her first experience with public speaking, an unprepared presentation built on a flimsy sense of confidence that utterly bombed, leaving a deep fracture in her self-perception. Her feelings crescendoed into an outpouring of resilience. It was that very failure that had propelled her toward this path of leadership. Suddenly, the air thickened with emotion. Her honesty sparked others to make confessions of their own. Time slipped away as stories filled the room, stories woven together with threads of vulnerability. Amelia felt an electrifying energy in the room, raw and intense, a flourishing of collective understanding unfurling around her. Yet, during the ebb and flow of shared narratives, a persistent doubt flared within her like a relentless ember. Was she strong enough to truly embrace this path? After all the words spoken tonight, the world had shifted around her like a kaleidoscope, yet the core of her fear remained intact, a shadow looming. As discussions drew to a close and the acknowledgement of applause settled over them, she couldn't help but wonder, wasn't this an escape from her true self? Could she sustain this apparition of courage, or would she inevitably retreat back into her cocoon? The room emptied, leaving Amelia alone with her thoughts. She stood in the space of shared truths, contemplating the remnants of her emotional unveiling. It had taken courage, yes, but in the aftermath, her heart raced with a new fear. If she continued to speak her truth, what else would she uncover about herself? Deciding that examination of her own scars would lead to deeper understanding, she took a breath, resolving to explore these feelings further. The uncharted territory of her own psyche beckoned her, but this time, she would take the leap. As she stepped outside into the cool evening air, Amelia locked the door. But at that moment, she locked up her fears, two fears that had claimed her for far too long. The anticipation of confronting those truths spurred her onward, her heart thundering with a paradox of excitement and trepidation. She would venture into the soul-searching that awaited, ready to discover whatever lay beyond. But what awaited her in that darkness? That was the question that loomed larger than life, and it echoed insistently in her mind. The brisk air felt alive against her skin as Amelia descended the library steps, invigorated yet unsettled. Each inhalation was a contract with herself, an agreement to dig deeper, to shine a light into the shadows she had kept hidden for so long. But could she truly confront everything that lay beneath the surface? As she made her way home, moments from the evening flickered in her mind like a film montage, the faces of those who shared their burdens, the raw emotions that had unfolded in the dim light of the room, and the weight of her own confessions crashing down on her. They had seen her, she had dared to be seen. But the stirring questions clawed at her. Was it enough? Would this newfound bravery abide, or would it dwindle into the recesses of her old self, buried and forgotten? Amelia paused for a moment on her front porch, taking in the warmth of her home. It felt inviting yet stifling in its familiarity. Change was a foreign concept, yet it beckoned her with urgency. What if she welcomed it? What if she let it propel her forward? That single thought sparked a tiny flame within her, and she ventured inside, drawn to the solace of her journal. Sitting at her kitchen table, she opened the worn pages and stared at her last entry, which bore the scars of her indecision. How many times had she let fear dictate her path? She could feel her heart racing, a pulse both frantic and exhilarating. With a determined flick of her pen, she began writing, capturing the lessons of the night with a steady hand. The words flowed freely as if they were yearning to break free. She documented moments of clarity intermingled with lingering fears that looked so hollow when examined closely. Through writing, she learned patterns within herself. She was adept at tethering her worth to others' acceptance, a bond she was ready to sever. A pivotal shift began to manifest within her, revealing strength she hadn't acknowledged before. Yet, with the dawn of this realization came another, darker thought. What if vulnerability invited criticism? What if this exploration of her true self unveiled qualities that would repulse rather than resonate? The anxiety snaked through her as she battled this new confrontation. In the stillness of her kitchen, buoyed by whispers of self-awareness, she recognized that allowing others to see her authentic self was a double-edged sword. But she also understood, the layers she had long hidden away were crucial for her journey. They housed her complexities, strengths, and triumphs waiting to emerge. The promise of uncovering her talents filled her with a quiet thrill. Could she tap into that potential, the whisper of a musician or an artist, inspired by her newfound authenticity? This was the opportunity she yearned for, to cultivate her voice beyond sharing her struggle, to create something tangible. With determination, she set her sights on exploring creative outlets that she had previously put aside. Perhaps painting would provide the breath of expression she craved, or music could echo her words in melodies she had yet to discover. Each thought was met with enthusiasm, and she found herself planning their execution, eager to see where her burgeoning courage might lead her. Yet, a nagging voice still lingered, a reminder of her fragility. Was she ready to incorporate duty and artistry into her life without the weight of fear dragging her down? Each idea presented both possibility and dread, and again, she felt the oscillation between excitement and vulnerability. As that pulse of contemplation thrummed through her, she realized she had a choice. Like the gathering from the night before, she could either shield her heart from the potential of failure or embrace every avenue of exploration that lay open, armed with the lessons of perseverance. Here was a crossroads. With her journal resting in her hands, the revelation bubbled forth. This was the moment to act. An urgency emerged, a momentum fueled by her commitment to discovery, leading to the next question rising within. How would she proclaim this journey to the people? In her life? Would they uplift her ambitions, or would they serve as obstacles to her evolving sense of self? Amelia stared out into the night, the stars glimmering with endless possibilities. She felt a surge of optimism in the face of her next challenge. This was only the beginning. What awaited was an exhilarating leap into her uncharted future. But just as quickly, the apprehensive tendrils of doubt slithered around her resolve, reminding her, rejection was not a distant possibility but a close companion. And so, a new phase emerged from the shadows, where uncertainty mingled with promise. Would she muster the courage to embrace both the art of her ambitions and the voices of those she cherished, shaping the narrative of her evolution? The night enveloped her, waiting for the answer. Amelia stood in front of her mirror, reflecting not only on her appearance but the journey that had led her here. Today marked a significant milestone, her first public art exhibition showcasing paintings inspired by her transformation and newfound voice. Excitement bubbled beneath the surface, yet a persistent undercurrent of anxiety tugged at her resolve. Would people appreciate her art? Would her story resonate? The past few weeks had been a whirlwind of creativity. Each stroke on canvas peeled back layers of fear and self-doubt. The vibrant colors she applied reflected the spectrum of emotions she had experienced since regaining her hearing. Her artwork captured the essence of vulnerability, strength, and resilience, everything she had come to embody. As she prepared for the event, her heart swelled with pride, reminding herself that this was not merely an exhibition, it was an assertion of her identity. Amelia's mind swirled with thoughts, alternating between excitement and trepidation. This was her opportunity to reclaim her narrative and share it with the world, a world that had once seemed so distant, muffled by silence. She could already imagine the faces, the whispers of admiration or critique, but she brushed the fear aside. It was time to embrace the acclaim, the connection, the risk of rejection. As she arrived at the gallery, Amelia took a moment to breathe in the atmosphere. The space was filled with viewers admiring the pieces on display. Each canvas represented a chapter of her life since her transformation: the fear of re-entering an audible world, the painful isolation, and the eventual reclamation of her voice and identity. Each piece told a story, a testimony emanating from the depths of her being. People began to approach her, intrigued not only by her work but by the vibrant woman standing confidently beside her creations. Patience flooded Amelia as she engaged with her audience, sharing snippets of her journey as they gazed at the colors and motifs she had chosen to express her experiences. Each conversation offered validation. They were drawn to her story, and in turn, she felt equally validated in expressing it. A brave woman with teary eyes stood before one of the paintings, a visual representation of her first moment hearing music. "I can relate to this," she said softly. "I lost my father recently and feel like I've lost my voice too." Amelia nodded, her heart resonating with empathy. "You haven't lost it, perhaps it's just waiting for you to rediscover it," she replied, her own voice steady and confident. Their connection was palpable, a reminder of the power hidden within vulnerability. As the evening unfolded, Amelia witnessed her art becoming a door to discussions of courage, loss, and resilience. Each interaction fortified her spirit, proving that sharing her journey invited others to share theirs. They no longer felt like strangers, but fellow travelers of growth. With each encounter, she felt a burgeoning confidence solidify. She was no longer merely the girl who had been silent, she was a voice resilient, potent, and worthy. Her fear had not vanished, but it transformed into an ally, urging her forward, compelling her to utilize her past as fodder for future strength. By the end of the night, Amelia stood back to survey the gallery filled with animated voices, laughter, and connection. Each piece had sparked conversations, each brushstroke had been a thread pulling people together. This was the embodiment of the community she had yearned for, and she had catalyzed it. Just before closing, a familiar face stepped forward. It was Marcus, grinning with uncontainable pride. "You've truly conquered this space, Am," he said, glancing at the commotion around them. "I knew you could do it, but seeing it this way, it's incredible." Amelia could feel a genuine glow of accomplishment radiate from within. "I did it because I finally realized the strength in being open, in being me." The validation of her growth struck a chord deep within, a satisfaction enhanced by the recognition of her peers. She had transformed not only in her abilities but in her understanding of self-worth and importance, a realization far more profound than any applause could convey. As Amelia gathered her belongings, a sense of completeness washed over her. She had proven to herself that she was capable of stepping into the light and embracing her journey. The growing confidence echoed in her slice of the art world reaffirmed that her voice mattered, that every shared experience created ripples of change. Her heart swelled with gratitude. She had carved out a new identity, one anchored in authenticity that welcomed imperfections, an artist, a storyteller, and a catalyst for connection. In the days to come, she would embrace this iteration of herself and continue to nurture the stories she had yet to uncover. Every creation, every gathering would become an extension of her journey, where she would invite others to share their voices, driving forward the mission of amplifying silenced narratives. This was her moment, not only to share her story but to belong in a world bursting with sound, connection, and depth. Amelia stepped outside the gallery as the night enveloped her, and she took a deep breath of the crisp air, listening, not just hearing but fully embracing the symphony of life. You need to subscribe now. This is your moment to show your support for our channel. Don't wait even one more second. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help these stories reach those who need them most. Make sure to comment your reactions and theories about this emotional conclusion. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who could benefit from witnessing Amelia's transformation.